university that can guide you in your following dreams? Then think the Catholic University Institute of Boya, the growth mindset entrepreneurial university. The Catholic University Institute of Boya run an Afro-American model that helps students to become the best version of themselves. We train students to become job creators and not job seekers and instill in them moral and spiritual values. Admissions open now in the School of Business, Agriculture and Natural Resources, School of Engineering, School of Information and Technology, School of Health Sciences, School of Arts Education, School of Law and School of Journalism and Communication. We run HND, BSc, MBA and Master's program as well as certification programs. In Boya, our campus is located opposite Bilingual Grammar School, Moliko. In Douala, we are at Bonaberry, Ancienne Route behind Lycée Polyvalent. To apply, go to www.cuib-cameroon.org/apply. Contact us now on 656-062-976 or 680-451-876.
Special good afternoon, televiewers and lovers of DMR TV. You're welcome to another very, very, very fresh edition of your weekend program called CUIBR. We're broadcasting live here in Boya, the legendary hospitality at the foot of Mount Fako, the foot of Mount Cameroon. It is CUIBR that comes up every Saturday as from 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And of course, remember, a broadcast comes your way every Thursday from 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And of course, we are letting you know that on today's edition of the program, we shall be having an in-depth look of one of the very, very, very important arms of the university, that is the Catholic University Institute of Boya, the Entrepreneurial Growth Mindset University. And we're letting you know that we are going to look at very, very closely the pastoral arm of the Catholic University Institute of Boya. Remember, we have three arms of the university. We have the academic arm, we have the entrepreneurial arm. We have been talking about these arms for a while now. Today in Focus, we are going to look at the pastoral arm. Is going to be very interesting, we promise you. So you don't need to leave from where you are right now. You don't need to be distracted. You need to just focus on today's edition of the program CUIBR. And of course, before we take on any transitional imperative, it is good enough to know that I'm not in the studio alone. I'm here with men and women made of stenner stuff. Yes, you're going to find out who they are in the course of the program today. I think without wasting any much time, we're going to begin with the Reverend Gentleman. Special good afternoon to you, Reverend Father Theory.
Good afternoon, Mr. Oscar. It's always a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
First time on DMR TV, or better still, your first time on CUIBR?
First time on CUIBR. CUIBR.
All right. You're welcome. I'm sure since it's not your first time on DMR TV, we have a lot of viewers who know you that much already with your programs. And of course, to my left, yes, we have the very, very beautiful, both physically and spiritually. Yes, her name is none other than Afanwi Yenge Natalia. Special good afternoon to you, Natalia.
Good afternoon, Mr. Oscar.
How are you doing?
I am doing very all right.
Just to let our viewers know that she happens to be a former Miss CUIB. Yes, she is into modeling and so many other things. On the course of the program, you are going to find out who she really is and how, the pastoral arm of the university is impacting her life already. And of course, to you out here to my immediate left, we have the gentleman in the person of Elonge Upson Bright. Special good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. House.
How are you doing?
Very well, and you?
We're okay. And of course, just note that he happens to be the president of the student government of the Catholic University Institute of Boya, CUIB, Boya campus. How is the student government going?
Well, I can say it's going smoothly, and we thank God.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you stay with us. When we come back, we shall be getting into the nitty-gritties of today's edition of the program. Don't move away.
CIB, of course, everybody thinks our school is 1 million. Like,
CIB, of course, this our logo.
I'm from CIB, of course, entrepreneurship is favor more than other subjects.
I'm from CIB, of course, the whole thing we are at Jabo. I'm from CIB, of course, everybody thinks an iPhone is our school necessity. Right.
I'm from CIB, of course, our lecturers are the best.
I'm from CIB, of course, our school campus is very neat.
Interesting. Our school campus very neat. We have the best lecturers. We have the best students. We call our students VIPs, of course. We are today on CUIBR. We are looking at the holistic approach. Yes, we know that when we talk about academics, we talk about entrepreneurial, the business. We now look at the moral, the holistic nature of the approach of the university towards its students and how the students are expected to be very, very morally upright there, out there, wherever they find themselves. Remember, we are job creators and not job seekers. We are living up to the expectations, reasons why we are a spotlight in the whole of West and Central Africa. Further theory, it is time for us to understand this aspect of pastoral. We are talking about the pastoral arm of the university. And these arms are not, they're equal to each other. They complement each other. So we wish to find out in a nutshell, what do we mean by the pastoral arm of the university?
The word pastoral is an adjective from the word noun pastor, which is from the Latin word pastor, which means a shepherd, someone who looks after. So the pastoral arm of the university is the pastoral arm that is geared toward looking after the mind and the hearts of everyone who works and studies in the university. So our job is to provide the other aspects of the life of the human being that complements his intellectual life. So to look at the life of his heart, his behavior, his attitudes, his the aspect where God comes in to make him a complete human being. As we read in John 10:10, I have come that they might have life and have it to the full. So we minister to the needs of the person at this level: his heart, his behavior, psychology, attitude, and so on and so forth.
Very interesting indeed. And we have two major aspects or areas of the pastoral arm of the Kali University Institute of Buea. That's why we have it in focus today on CUIBR. And it's time for us to meet the Director of Campuses, Library and Publications of CUIB, the person of Reverend Sister Therese Jamfa. She is going to be looking at one very important aspect of the pastoral arm of the university. When we come back, we shall look at the other aspect of the pastoral arm. So let's now meet Reverend Sister Therese Jamfa. Special good afternoon, televiewers. You're welcome to the Buea campus of the Catholic University Institute of Buea. We are in the Gordon Martin studio equally made used by our School of Journalism and Communication, as you can spot on me. And we are looking at, like we are, of course, we are mentioning, our main focus for this edition of CUIBR happens to be the arm, one of the arms of the Kali University Institute of Buea, which is the pastoral arm. Yes, and on this edition, as far as the pastoral arm is concerned, we are going to be looking at a very, very important aspect of the pastoral arm, which happens to be Catholic studies. But before that, we wish to welcome the Director of Campuses, Library and Publications, Kali University Institute of Buea. You're welcome on board, Sister Therese.
Thank you, Mr. Oscar. I'm happy to be with you.
And of course the televiewers.
And the televiewers.
Exactly. So I mean, your name is Sister Therese. You have an N name, and the N name is good that the viewers get it themselves, because you know that names are very, very unique depending on every area that people come from. So we want you to tell us your name and maybe do a little brief introduction of yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oscar.
Therese Njamfa is my name, and like you had said already, I am working in the Office of Campuses, and I've been in CIB for a while, and it's wonderful to be working in CIB, and of course, it's wonderful to be part of this program.
Yes, Sister Therese happens to be a very soft-spoken person, and when she speaks to you, you get your healing. Reasons why she's a Reverend Sister in the first place. And we wish to now delve straight. Sister Therese, you've been in CUIB for a while, like you mentioned. We have been stressing on the academic arm of the university. We've been looking at the entrepreneurial/business arm of the university. This time around, we want to focus on the pastoral arm of the university. What, according to you, is pastoral? What do we mean when we talk about pastoral arm of the university?
Thank you, Mr. Oscar. The pastoral arm of our university has its uniqueness. A complementary arm to the academic and the entrepreneurial arm, because it focuses on my person. It has the components, the pastoral arm has the components of the campus ministry, typically the EOC, the Economy of Communion, which I won't delve into because the minister himself will handle that. And under EOC, you have counseling, spiritual direction, and the care of the soul, my spiritual person. Alongside campus ministry, we have Catholic Studies, which is a 4-year program, a component of the pastoral care, the care of the soul. I am body, mind, and spirit. So this pastoral arm complements my integral formation. Thank you.
Interesting, sister. And you already mentioned that you're going to focus on Catholic Studies. And Catholic Studies happens to be one of the main requirements before you are qualified to say you're a graduate from CUIB. It's a general university course, and it has a dean, so it's being referred to as School of Catholic Studies. So we wish to find out, Catholic Studies, is this just about talking about Catholic issues and everything in the Catholic Studies? Who are those who are part of the Catholic Studies, and how is tutoring going as far as that is concerned, please?
Thank you, Mr. Oscar. Usually we begin by stating that Catholic stands for universal.
Okay.
So the program is good for every human person. The content is objective, it's ethical, it nurtures my values, my principles, and those principles are good for the goose and the gander. I mean, so the word Catholic means inclusive.
Okay.
Inclusive. Yes.
Inclusive.
Thank you. And like we mentioned already, we are about integral formation. And when you take care of my brains, my intellect, and give me skills, my heart needs to define knowledge and how I apply the skills I receive. So the program in the Catholic Studies, the School of Catholic Studies, enables me to bring my person, my gifts, my talents into my knowledge dimension and my skillful dimension. So it's the integrity of my person is the focus of the School of Catholic Studies. So as we move on, we will get into maybe some highlights.
Yes. So talking about that, School of Catholic Studies, a general university course in the Catholic University Institute of Boya, one of the arms, of course, what makes the pastoral and pastoral. We wish to find out. We, for more educations, we have Catholic Studies level 1, Catholic Studies level 2, Catholic Studies level 3, Catholic Studies level 4. So why that? Because I mean, our mentor university, like the University of Boya, maybe they have just maybe 1 and 2 a year. We're talking about 4 years of Catholic Studies. Why that uniqueness? Why that stress for your general university course?
Wonderful, Mr. Oscar. We are about helping us to become saints and scholars. And to be true to ourselves is a process that needs time. Formation is a process that needs a lot of time, and it should be a gradual process for it to be effective, because I am talking about one of the course actually stresses the fact that I must be reflective, a reflective scholar and a reflective practitioner. It helps me to be, a saint and a scholar, not just a giant as far as my intellect and my mind is concerned, but a giant, a balanced giant in morality as well. Because the way I apply whatever I have professionally is, of course, given a flavor by my moral dimension. So that is why we accompany ourselves from level 1 while I am studying IT, engineering, business, whatever, to gradually and alongside develop my moral potential, capability, expectation. Thank you.
Interesting. I mean, you're welcome back from Studio B out there in CUIB Boya campus at the level of the Gordon Martin's studio. Yes. Father, we had sister talk about the Catholic studies, and she equally stresses on the balance in morality based on the syllables, what they giving at the level of tutoring. So probably you give us throw more light on the structure as regards the pastoral arm of the Catholic University Institute of Boya. She just spoke about Catholic studies. Maybe we have another dimension when it comes to the structure of pastoral arm of the CUIB.
Okay, let me clarify that the pastoral arm includes the service we provide. That is the pastoral service we provide to look after the well-being of the whole human being, not just the intellect, but also particularly within our focus, the mind, the heart, the behavior and attitudes that form a person in his relationship with others and relationship especially with God. Now, in the classroom, we have the course Catholic Studies, which is an aspect to the pastoral arm of the university to provide a holistic person, not just somebody who is intellectually sound, but also somebody who has moral values. That is the goal of the Catholic Studies program, which is done at all levels, the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. The content of it is Catholic social teaching. But when you discover, as sister said, the word Catholic is universal, you will see that even though it's called Catholic, social teaching really answers the aspirations of all human beings, irrespective of where they are in the world. And it's based on 6 principles. The principle of the dignity of the human person. The human person has dignity because he or she comes from God, because he comes from God. Worthy of respect. It's not to be used as an end. It's not to be used as a means, but it is an end in himself. It deserves respect and consideration. Another principle is that of subsidiarity, whereby what can be done at the lower level may not be taken on the higher level. This in respect to the human person and in respect to communities that are able with regard to the capacities that they have. Also, we have the universal distribution of goods. The idea that goods should not be tailored only for consumption by a particular group of people. Of course, you know today we have first class, second hand, and third class goods. But the idea of this principle is that people are served irrespective of where they are. Practically, it might seem plausible that we in our own time feel that not all human beings have the same purchasing power, and so in some way we make goods that are tailored to their purchasing power. But we feel that in service to the dignity of the human person, that we distribute goods evenly, so that we make the consumption of these goods the pride and the happiness of people who are growing into the knowledge of God and appreciation of one another. So we have some of those principles upon which Catholic Studies is built, and we, as we say here, the whole idea is to form in our students moral values, so that tomorrow when they become entrepreneurs, tomorrow when they become job creators, they know how they treat customers, they know how they treat those who in general stand to profit from what they do as entrepreneurs. So that is what the classroom work does. What we do at level of the chaplaincy, as we have said, is more directly pastoral, to look after their hearts, to look after their behavior and attitudes. So the pastoral arm is also called, popularly is called the chaplaincy. Yes, where the chaplain does the religious work. Yes, but the word pastoral there is more etymological, is more roots, is more like an umbrella term upon which the functionality of the chaplaincy comes in. Speaking of functionality, we have the chaplain himself. That's how we are organized. The chaplain is who is me, but actually in our university we call it the campus minister, since it's an African American model that we use. That's the appellation, the campus minister. It's called the campus minister and not the chaplain, or not just the pastor, because he has to do with, he is looking after not only Catholics but also students of different confessions who have different traditions through time. We have him. We have the sister who just spoke to us, who's director of campuses. In the chaplaincy, her job is to look after logistics, what the chaplaincy owns as material benefits and how those material benefits are administered. Okay. When it comes to making an inventory and ensuring that every year what the chaplaincy owns and possesses for its work is stable, that is where she comes in. Also, we have a sacristan. The sacristan's function is to prepare the altar and the sanctuary for the sacrifice of the Holy Mass. Also, we have a reading master, whose job it is to prepare the lectors, that is the readers, for the proclamation of the word during the Holy Mass. So that is how we structure our chaplaincy. That is how we marshal the personnel around to ensure that we have a smooth working impact, I would say, on the students and on ourselves too.
All right, Father, very importantly, we know about the economic of communion.
Applied to CUIB is the economy of communion.
Yeah.
The economy of communion, that appellation is strange to very many people today, but really its roots go back to Kiara Lubick in 1943 or 1944 when she started the Focolare movement. Her whole aim was to start a social renewal and a spiritual renewal of all people, to ensure that people coexist together. No one is too rich and no one is too poor. But social activism is all built upon God's own project for humanity. She was Catholic. So in 1962, the Catholic Church approved her movement, and it is present in 182 countries all around the place. Now, where does EOC fall into this project? Where does economy of communion fall into this project? In 1991, she visited Brazil, and she discovered that Brazil had a problem of this divide between the wealthy and the non-wealthy. That is a constant problem of capitalism everywhere in the world. Even in the US today, you have ghettos in New York. So when she went there in 1991, she discovered that her mission, what she felt was her call to start this movement, was of particular interest there. But because people don't take much interest in religion, we actually saw how she particularly felt called to do something about Brazil, or to speak to power in Brazil, when in 96 a pop musician called Michael Jackson, who died in 2009, shot a video of one of his songs, "I Don't Care About Us," in Brazil. Those of us who grew up in the 90s were able to see pictures of how they don't really care about us. We saw pictures of how that place really looks like. I mean, that is New York Haute Mer, still in French. That is the New Belle Haute Mer. That is, you know how New Belle looked like back in the day in Douala. You know, like you're seeing New Belle in Brazil. You know how people are built, how the settlement is built, how people live. That is the low life area of Brazil. So she wanted to ensure that the people there assimilate the gospel, that people are brought together and not pushed apart because of their talents and abilities. For some people to do so more and others to do so less. So economy of communion was to ensure that producers and entrepreneurs share profits, distribute profits, and that falls in line one of the principles of social Catholic doctrine, which says universal distribution of goods. When companies make profits, it's important that they remunerate their workers. I believe that in CUIB we also stand in need to ensure that this principle we teach in class is also applicable not just to our students but also to our workers as well. That in as much as our institutions in some way find themselves our institutions in some practically it's run like a business, every school, but the distinctive character of Catholic education is to form the whole individual. So in the aspect of business, it's important that we also make this come to light, distribution of goods. That's what I'm talking about. So the economy of communion applied in CUIB is a project to see that we are brought together, we are not shifted apart. And since God is a source of all coming together of people, because when he made the world, he made the human being, gave him a vocation to till and care for creation. So we answer this call, we feed ourselves in the umbrella of the economy of communion to first of all give 1 hour to observe this economy of communion hour in CUIB. The first 30 minutes is cultic worship. We all go and we worship God because God is the one who brings us together. So that inspired from God's work for us, the remaining 30 minutes now we have casual break. So you see how in CUIB break is not just break. Break is actually built on a philosophy, is built on an attitude toward the gospel that is practically applicable in seeing that we also feed ourselves in God's work of bringing people together. So the first 30 minutes there, everyone goes to his denomination and worship God. So to speak, we draw life from him. We are inspired from his work of sharing. You know, in the Catholic liturgy, this is very, very manifest. We listen to his word, the first part, and the second part, we bring gifts that he himself, by his power, through the agency of the priest, transform the bread and wine into his body and blood. So we receive it, and Christ gives us his body and blood as nourishment. Having been nourished from God, who is the first sharer, we are now able to go on break casually and mingle with our other friends. More importantly, specifically in CUIB, we have the EOC village, which is, I would say, a material representation of what we have in our minds as an attitude. The EOC village is built just right next to the canteen. So students go to the canteen and buy whatever food stuff they have and come to the EOC village and share amongst themselves. Well, I don't seem to have seen very much of students cutting half of their plate of rice or chicken to share with other students, but I believe it is being done every now and then, because I've also been a beneficiary of the use of communion. I've been to the village a number of times, and every time I've been there, I've not been the one who has brought my plate of food. So you see how what happens in cultic religious worship for 30 minutes impacts persons within our community to really bring this to light. So we have the structures in place to ensure that we live out this economy of communion. Usually, the mistake we make in our communities among particular students and particular members of staff too is to limit economy of communion to the 30 minutes of cultic religious worship. That really is part of the hour, such that we draw life from it, from our heart, we draw spiritually, such that the remaining 30 minutes we can actually practically do the sharing in whatever way that we can. So that is the meaning of EOC, economic communion, whereby we share benefits, we share gifts, we share talents, we share whatever thing we have, because God himself has brought us into his family. We're not asking to be members of God's family. God always knew that without him we shall be destined for perdition. So he sent the Son to die for us, and by dying for us brings us together into the family of God. So Christ really makes of us an offering, to the Father. So whenever we worship God, we come away with this sense of God has given us gifts, God has given us his life, God has given us an example of how to live, such that from that inspiration we are able also to do the same toward one another. So that is briefly how the pastoral arm of the university is structured and marshaled in such a way that it meets its objective.
Well, thank you so very much, Reverend Father Thierry, for the very, 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 very detailed approach, the holistic approach of the university. We really appreciate that, and we know that this is why the Catholic University Institute of Boya is very, very unique, because we do things that many, many, many universities in the world do not do. That's that hour, we have been clarified, is for worship, is for sharing equally. So we should know that. And fortunately, we have students who are part and parcel of the university, and they have been there for some time. So we heard in Father's explanation, got one position called sacristan. And here we have Elonge Obsonbright, who doubles as president of the student government body of CUIB Stuttgart Boya campus. You are a sacristan.
Yes.
What do you do?
The work of the sacristan is to make sure things are ready for mass. That's, you set the altar, you prepare the vestments for the priest, and you make sure the students are organized for the mass.
Interesting.
Worship.
So what does it take for you to become a sacristan? I mean, we have students who are following, we have parents who are following, we have even to be CUIB members who are coming to the university beginning next academic year. So what does it take to be a sacristan?
There's no formal application to become a sacristan. A sacristan can be looked as a calling too, like how you have a calling to become a priest. You have to have a calling, you have to be determined and willing to be a sacristan, because it's not an easy job. You have to lead by example. You have to show students that this is what the EOC means.
You're not paid, it's not paid.
Yes, and you are not being paid. So it's a calling. You are called to become a sacristan, or to sacrifice to become a sacristan. And it's not an easy job. It's because you have to be attentive, you have to be on time, you have to make sure everything is said, because if you miss, the mass will not be in place, because you play an important role for the mass. Also, this affects your personal life to go in, because after that, after the EOCR, you are still a student. How do you adopt that now into your personal life? That's one of the main reasons why I named my party, going in for the presidential campaign, the EOC party, because I want to bring in that values into politics. Like I said, let the students see that EOC is not only about praying. EOC can be merged with politics and make it a better place. So I now, as a position of the student government, want to show the students, want to lead by example what the EOC really means, so they can copy from me and not only hear that there's EOC, but they can see it in action.
So I'm trying to say that you being a sacristan was part of a political strategy to become president of the student government?
No.
Because in that light, they see the action man.
I think it's the other way around. Me becoming a president is a spiritual method of showing the EOC to the students.
Because you mentioned it. And we'll come back to you along some break. We'll now move to our Miss Fanry Yenge Natalia, a BTech student, Department of Human Resource Management, CUIB. You're welcome once again.
Thank you, Mr. Oscar.
Natalia, what made you to come back? I mean, you had your HND from CUIB, you came back again. What really motivated that move?
Well, the thing that motivated me to come back to CUIB is because I had not seen any school that really measures up when it comes to competition in orderliness, godliness, and being punctual and disciplined. CUIB is discipline, CUIB is godly, CUIB is in order.
Okay.
Well,
now, you are a Presbyterian Christian.
Yes, I am.
Christian of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. And we're talking about economy of communion. We're talking about Catholic studies. We're talking about the pastoral arm, the holistic approach. You don't find it strange, or these aspects of communion, these aspects of Catholic studies, how does it go with you?
Well,
I mean, the world wants to know when we talk about Catholic studies. You are a student, they are tutoring you Catholic studies. You are a student, you are in the economy of communion hour and everything. How does it been with you?
Frankly speaking, Mr. Oscar, when I first came to Catholic University, I had the fear of not being able to fit in because, as in quote, I'll put it, I'm a Presbyterian and I did not know the practices and teachings of the Catholic denomination.
Exactly.
But with time, I grew to be comfortable, love it, and fit in. Now, it is not as complex or difficult as people may put it to be outside. We on the inside will better understand it because we experience it every day. Now, the EOC is very simple. It goes on for Catholics and also goes on for other denominations in school, as in it is divided. Those who are like us Presbyterians, we have our own room where we sit during the EOC hour and we pray and we meditate. Catholics have their own room and other denominations. Now, I came to understanding that the school put this in place so that everybody can be able to praise God and worship God in their denominational culture, like Father said.
Okay. Viewers, you are getting it very well. The Catholic University Institute of Boya is not just for Catholics, for every other person. This is a Presbyterian giving her testimony as to how she has been, So now let's look at the issue of Catholic studies.
Yes.
Just like we have economy of communion, Catholic University, everybody's knowing. So Reverend Sister mentioned that Catholic is universal.
Yes, that's right.
So how has Catholic studies been with you? I mean, do they do Catholic things there, or they give general? I mean, how's the situation of Catholic studies?
Okay, contrary to what it sounds like,
it
is actually more of like an ethical study, like Father said. Now, I'm a student in the Human Resource Department, and when I heard the name Catholic Studies, I thought it would be teaching Catholic doctrine.
Maybe it's semi-doctrine.
Yeah, semi-doctrine and Catholic cultures, but it is very different from that. It teaches us of ethical values, dignity, and other important things that we need to put in our life day to day to live as good Christians and people of God. Now, moving to the side of the business world where I am involved, Catholic Studies has opened my eyes to a lot of things that are very important in my career. For example, running a company. Now, in human resource management, they teach us business ethics, but that is only as an advantage to business incorporation with maybe other businesses. But Catholic Studies teaches us ethics as a business value. That is, in order to relate with people out there. For example, making sure your business is coherent or comfortable for other people out there. You shouldn't be making your surrounding uncomfortable through the business you do, and so many other advantages that Catholic Studies teaches us.
Interesting. Indeed. Interesting. You see, these are the things we need to come out of this, myth of Catholic University Catholic.
Yeah,
I mean, even the presenter here is not a Catholic. The presenter, as we speak, is a Christian from the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. However, at the level of the Catholic University Institute of Boya, there is what called universal acceptance. At the end of the day, it's about spiritual readiness, because we are worshiping one and same God.
Exactly.
We might have different styles, but it's one and same God. In the economy of communion hour, on Tuesdays we go to our various halls for various denominations. On Wednesdays we come together ecumenical, and then Thursday, Friday we still, so everybody is accommodating. I'm talking now as a member of faculty and a member of staff of the university.
To say something a little bit more about Catholic, and the reason why perhaps you may not even understand it yourself, how it works, that within that environment everyone is able to be comfortable, is because what Catholic is universal, and universal is what is true. What is true is universal. So at the service of humanity lies what every human being aspires to. So the principles of Catholic studies really are those 6 identification points that allow every human being to be at home with the service of the church. The very first one is a human dignity. I thought about universal distribution of goods. where we don't categorize people only according to their purchasing power, but also we see them as people, but that we serve them where they are. And subsidiarity, the idea that if something can be done at a lower level of competence, it may not be taken over by the higher level of competence, which is especially why people fit in CUIB, because they see that subsidiarity really is a reality. What students can do, they do. We have an entrepreneurship fair where you see manifestation of all kinds of talents. It's just wonderful and beautiful thing to see. Then we have solidarity. That is the idea that we all belong to one family. You know, if you move from the human dignity, universal distribution of goods, and subsidiarity, you see that we are really all one family. We are to live in solidarity together. So Catholicity is in service of truth, and it's because of truth that everyone seems to fit in.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Father. We're now moving to the president of the student government body, STUGA, of the Catholic University Institute of Boya campus. Remember, we have two campuses, one in Boya, situated beside Lycée Bileng de Boya, and of course, the other one is in Douala, the nation's economic capital, around Lycée Polyvalent out there in Douala. So we have two campuses, one university. Mr. President, in as much as you came here this day in another capacity at the level of the EOCR, what has been your challenge regarding rallying students to participate actively in the economy of communion? What has been your challenge? What has been do they take Catholic studies seriously? Based on your office.
Thank you, Mr. Oscar. With regards to Catholic studies, I was faced with many questions by students like, I'm not a Catholic, why should I do Catholic studies? I'm not a Catholic, why do I have to do Catholic studies up to the level 4? And this question is mostly posed by the level 1 students because they don't have an understanding. Even when you see during the EOCRs, you have to rally students, you see that the recalcitrant ones are the level 1 students because they have not yet come to an understanding. Because when you look at the level 1, the level 2, the level 3, the level 4 students, the older students are already aware, they have understood the impact and the meaning of Catholic studies and the EOCR. So it's easier with them because they've already come to an understanding. They've spent a year or more at the Catholic University and those values are already imputed in them. Well, now it becomes difficult with the level 1 students because most of them come from different backgrounds. Most of them, they still have the mindset of university is where I have my freedom. I personally, when I came in my level 1, that was how I am. I will not lie you, I tried dodging the EOCR when I first of all came. But now, when I started attending EOC, I came to understand what EOC represents, how it impacted my life, and how I can use it to impact others. So when it comes to rallying the students, it's not about forcing them that go to EOC. It's about coming, understanding with them, talking with them, and giving them a reason why they should attend EOC.
Okay, interesting. Talia, you've been there and you're still there as a miss that you were at the level of the Catholic University Institute and following your modeling career and any other thing that has to do with exposing your talent and exposing your professional I can say career. Has there been any major challenge with this EOC, Catholic studies and all that, apart from the fact that you had that in mind that it's more about Catholics? So how did you come out of it?
Well, Mr. Oscar, just like my fellow student Bright said,
and your president.
Yes, my president. In the beginning, I had a lot of challenges because during that hour, which you could actually have the liberty to leave school, but then you're confined because it's an hour that it's something that is compulsory for everybody. I would grumble and I would be angry that, oh, I have my programs to go out of school and run some errands maybe, and they're holding me back in school. But over time, I grew to love it.
Okay.
Now, this is because EOC actually opened a new lamplight for me in my life. At first, I did not used to be close to God, but the EOCR helped me get close to God. And ever since that encounter or that experience, after I inculcated it into my life, it's now like a routine. Sometimes now I don't even need to wait for the bell before we attend EOC. And I believe there are many other students who are like me now, who are comfortable with the EOC. I would just say over time, you just have to you will just grow to like it. Well, you go to Rome and do what the Romans do, and obviously you become a Roman.
Interesting. We're happy to know that the EOCR has impacted your life very positively, as well as Catholic studies and all that. So we'll move over to you, Father. Now we're looking at spiritual direction. We're talking about the pastoral, the holistic approach of the university. We're looking at this spiritual direction. Counseling. As a Reverend Father, you are expected to be an automatic counselor. The student government body here, President Sacristan, is expected to be, of course, a counselor. As a Miss, you are an ambassador of the university. Whether you are current Miss or former Miss, they see you like that. They idolize you. They see you more of, okay, this is somebody I want to become like in future. I mean, the junior students in particular. Father, spiritual direction, counseling, are the same thing?
Not exactly, but in practice, they are sometimes seen to be together. One important thing about CUIB, distinctive thing about CUIB, is a hands-on approach.
Okay.
So, those who are Protestants in general, they are more familiar with the word counseling. Particularly those who are Catholics, they are familiar with the word spiritual direction. Now, the difference in counseling between counseling and spiritual direction is that counseling has more to do with the application of one's life to life in general, in various aspects. Natalia has mentioned business. Bright has mentioned student attitudes in general. Now, that also goes into ethics, maybe even marriage, maybe even work ethics, and so on and so forth. Another aspect that counseling also addresses will be things like depression. Young people today are depressed, not a few, from what we discover. So those aspects to the life of the human person that make his life in general meaningful are seen in these various aspects of life, maybe marriage, work, school, and so on and so forth. Now, among Catholics, spiritual direction will take all of this on board. It assumes all of this as part of its scope of activity, recognizing that the human person has been loved by God. The human person has a vocation also to love God. So from this perspective of the person's vocation to love God, all of these are gathered together in their application to a person's relationship to God. So we call it spiritual direction, especially because the Spirit's presence in our lives truly empowers us. And if the Spirit's presence is active and dynamic, we shall find that we will easily be able to trace his activity and see how his activity enables us to take care of these aspects that seem problematic. I've spoken to Nathalie as Presbyterian in the office about...
Yeah, the other day I saw in your office, and then so it was more of the counseling now.
Both.
It was more
counseling and direction.
Giving us spiritual direction.
Well, both.
Okay.
Both. Because actually it began with very ordinary things. Then we moved on to somewhat counseling, and then we moved on now to direction. Actually, I was using the vantage point of spiritual direction to speak to her from a place of counseling. To her, it seemed like counseling, but to me, I knew I was giving spiritual direction, because the question I asked her about, how do you know your sins are forgiven? And the answer she gave me made me satisfied. I think to me, there was no need to go on again. I think from that moment, the session was closed. Everything we said after that was just. So we provide this service to students depending on their need, even to members of staff in the community. You just meet members of staff and speak to them about different things, but especially about how those different things affect their working experience in CUIB. We've spoken to some. With regard to students, it's much more, I would say, to be expected. Sometimes you might find students with issues in CUIB which identify them with students of other institutions too, because they are people, no more or less than the rest. So you identify that and you speak with them about life in general. You make them realize that this stage of your life is a stage where you can't afford to throw it away. You're preparing yourself for the world. The world needs your expertise. The world needs you. And for you to be fruitful in the world, you need to realize that God is a part of your life. So how do you make God a part of your life? How do you make meaning out of your time in CUI? We also try to shed light on the meaning of what we do in school to make them have a fuller appreciation of their stay there, so that they don't just drift along with time. They are really students who are purpose driven, I would say. So we give direction, we give counseling. As Catholics also, we hear confessions. We forgive sins in the confessional, and we give direction for movement from there on. We also do some kind of follow-up. Some students are even in need of deliverance. I have actually met students who are in need of deliverance. I've actually assisted students in that regard, and the student in question was not even Catholic. She was some other thing. So I think that and I really wanted her to be here today. But I didn't bother to know her name. I just wanted to meet her as a person. I didn't bother to get her number. I wanted to meet her as a person, such that she has her own story, independently formed from her experience with us. So we provide these needs to talk to people and to make them see how God is working in their lives, and to make them see how they can take advantage of this and also love God better. So right. In brief, this is what direction does. This is what counseling does. There are very many needs, but we meet them at the level and at the stage at which we meet them to help them to come up to be whole individuals.
Very interesting. So at the end of the day, we have listened. We've seen that the pastoral arm of the university has a lot to do with this moral, spiritual, otherwise upbringing of the students, faculty and staff. And we cannot joke with that, because we know how issues of the spirit are not to be taken for granted. It's just like health, which is wealth. If you are not healthy, you cannot even study. Now, if you are not spiritually, morally very, very, very upright there, it will be difficult for you to create an impact with our vision and mission of the Catholic University, because we know that as a job creator, you must have that ability to make things right. You must command the morality. You must command the spiritual uprightness. You must command.
I want to make a comment there. With Protestants in general, they have this idea about life with Christ, in the way you have put it, to command and so on and so forth. But really, the great ones are not those who impose themselves.
No. Command will mean you must have it in you. You must be confident that the Spirit lives in you, and the Spirit is in you.
One more time, the Protestant outlook. There's that idea to among Protestants in general to, I don't know how put it in the right words, to give it to sell God, and put it that way, like though God were a commodity. You understand what I'm saying? But the reason why among Catholic circles we use the word spiritual direction is because we realize that we are not the protagonists of the work of God in the lives of people. We are facilitators. You understand? We help people discover the footprints of God in their lives. And once they are beginning to be in sync with that, we step back. The director has a duty to step back. You must have heard this argument sometimes among people, that I don't need an institution to stand between me and God. When we carry on this idea of what the way you mentioned it, you begin to deepen in the minds of people and embolden them in this argument that the institution of the church stands between them and God. But we as Catholics understand very clearly that the director is there to assist the directee to to find the footprints of God in his life. Once the person begins to get instinct, the director simply moves away and allows God and the person to continue in that relationship of love, because God is a great lover. The Bible is the greatest love story ever told. How God is in search for humanity, and God is working in the life of each and every person to ensure that this love relationship blossoms and it fosters. So, strictly speaking, we as spiritual directors, we see that students recognize the work of God in their life and move on from there. One more time again, strictly speaking, when it comes to spiritual direction, every Christian, beginning every Catholic Christian, should have a spiritual director. You don't meet a spiritual director only when you have problems. You meet him regularly so that he helps you chart, I would say, a map for your growth in the love of God from the time you are baptized to the time you die. And it has to be something that is initiated really by the directee and not really by the director himself. I choose my director. I would like to meet you once every month. Okay, I give a resume of how my life in Christ has gone, how I carry on my daily activities, and how it is imbued with the footprints of God, how I perceive it, what my unique difficulties are during this period. Then the director tries to help you find the footprints of God, try to help you recognize God in your life, so that you can be more able to respond to the grace of the Spirit that is given freely. On Sunday tomorrow, we are celebrating the Feast of Pentecost. That is Christ's gift to his followers. God is much more ready to give the Spirit than to give any material benefits. That's quite true. Christ said, "You who are able know how to give good things to your children. How much more will Heavenly Father give the Spirit to those who ask him?" So God is more ready to give the Spirit than he is to give a house or a car or a benefit or whatever sort of thing. So our job is there to ensure that people recognize. That's paramount.
Very important.
That's really first, and that people recognize, and now from there they move on. So when we find that they are sinking, they are in step with God's work in their lives, we simply move back.
Thank you, Father. Yes. We of course will have other moments where we are going to share all this spiritual direction and everything that has to do with our holistic approach of Catholic University Institute of Boya. Unfortunately, we don't have any much time. We just have to round up now. We are not going to take on any break. We are going to round up immediately and pack our bags and leave the studio for other programs to, of course, come in. We are now going to get the last words from all of us out there. We'll begin with you, Bright Sacristan. Which last words do you have for our viewers? Of course, they're watching right now from all over the world, especially those who are on the fence, thinking of coming to the Catholic University to become CUIB family members, come at the academic year 2024-2025. What message do you have for them in the spirit or in the light of the pastoral direction?
Firstly, I want to thank the viewers for tuning in and being with us up to this point. The message I have for you is UIB is a place to build you up morally, spiritually, ethically, educationally, and mentally. So if you are still in doubt, I think we have clarified all your doubt when it comes to the spiritual part today. So do not waste time. Contact us for any more questions or inquiries.
Thank you so very much, Awesome Bright Elonge. Over to you, Natalia Miss. Before your last word, very briefly, what's up with your modeling career, or you're just focusing on your human resource area?
No, now I'm focusing on my human resource career. Modeling has ended for me. It ended a few years ago.
Oh, it ended? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. We'll see how it goes. So now, your last word for the viewers, those who are watching, everybody's watching right now.
For the viewers out there, I would like to tell you that do not yield to the stigma people put on CUIB as the overly religious school, or school that is overly religiously based. Well, we're based on ethics, humanitarian works, education, and as the logo goes, Santi Escolari, which is saints and scholars. It is a wonderful place for you to be, and I promise you, you will not regret coming.
Thank you so much for being part and parcel of the program today. Father, 30 seconds, your last words to the viewers who are watching right there.
I just want to say that if you have someone who is moral, it's because of the presence of something in his life or her life. Morality is really in function of something else, and that something else is faith. So within the academic establishment of CUIB, while the institution forms your mind, no doubt, we have qualified personnel. Also, we pay attention to this aspect such that it yields fruit in this concern, first of all, for the importance of living an ethical, moral life, and also in some way by doing that, helping others to realize their own dignity as people. So every in this particular aspects in the pastoral life in the pastoral arm that we give in CUIB, you are covered. I would say you are not just formed intellectually, you are also made to realize that you are a complete person. So if you are interested in being a complete person and you want to help others realize whatever good thing you aspire for them, I think CUIB, I believe, is a good place to start.
Very, very interesting. Thank you so very much, dear panelists, for being a part and parcel of today's edition of the program. Thank you, dear viewers, for keeping very, very high faith in the university, for keeping very high faith in the program CUIBR. And if you did enjoy the program, join us again next week for another very interesting edition of CUIBR. Remember, a rebroadcast of this program comes up on Thursday as from 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Special thanks to the Bishop of the Buea Diocese, who doubles as Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor of CUIB, Bishop Michael Bibi. Thank you so much for the general supervision. We equally wish to appreciate the President of the Kali University Institute of Buea, Reverend Father Bartholomew Anyau, for ensuring production is top-notch during today's edition of the program. For all of you following, we say we really, really appreciate. And remember, you are the best in your family and your generation. My name is Lingongo Oscar Musonge. Thank you very much, and God bless us all. Have a beautiful weekend.
Are you looking for a university that can guide you in your following dreams? Then think the Catholic University Institute of Buea, the growth mindset entrepreneurial university. The Catholic University Institute of Buea run an Afro-American model that helps students to become the best version of themselves. We train students to become job creators and not job seekers, and instill in them moral and spiritual values. Admissions open now in the School of Business, Agriculture and Natural Resources, School of Engineering, School of Information and Technology, School of Health Sciences, School of Arts Education, School of Law, and School of Journalism and Communication. We run HND, BSc, MBA, and Master's program, as well as certification programs. In Buea, our campus is located opposite Bilingual Grammar School, Moliko. In Douala, we are at Bonaberry, Ancienne Route behind Lycée Polyvalent. To apply, go to www.cuib-cameroon.org/apply. Contact us now on 656-062-976 or 680-451-876.